Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
The Rashists began to actively use armored vehicles for assaults in Donbass. Russian troops are actively increasing mechanized offensive actions in the western part of the Donetsk region, trying to take advantage of dry conditions before the onset of autumn weather. According to the Institute for the Study of War (ISW), the occupiers have increased the use of armored vehicles and tanks in their attacks, particularly in the direction of Pokrovsk and Kharkov. 3 major mechanized attacks have been recorded in the past week, significantly exceeding the rate of attacks in previous months. ISW analysts attribute this increase to the desire of Russian forces to consolidate their positions before the rains, which can make it difficult to advance due to muddy conditions. They expect that Russia will continue offensive operations even after the autumn roadlessness, although weather conditions may temporarily reduce the effectiveness of the infantry. The Russian command probably plans to use the autumn months to maintain offensive pressure on the front, even in inclement weather, in order to maintain the initiative in combat operations. Earlier we wrote that the aggressor state takes missile-carrying ships to the Black Sea to distract Ukrainian air defense during mass attacks. We will also remind you that in the temporarily occupied Crimea, the Russian occupiers are actively strengthening the western coast. Air defense forces shot down all Russian drones that tried to attack the capital. On the night of October 19, the defense forces of Ukraine successfully neutralized all Russian drones that tried to attack Kyiv. As Serhiy Popko, the head of the Kyiv City Military Administration, reported, Russian drones entered the city from different directions, and the air alert in the capital lasted for more than 3.5 hours. Popko also called on the residents of Kyiv to follow safety rules and go to shelters during air raids. Earlier we wrote that in Kherson, Russian invaders fired from a drone at workers of the Regional Communal Emergency and Rescue Service. As a result of the attack, 5 people were injured. We will also remind you that Russian troops attacked Marganets in the Dnipropetrovsk region, wounding 3 people. The enemy attacked a critical infrastructure facility in Chernihiv Oblast. On the night of October 19, Russian troops attacked a critical infrastructure facility in the Chernihiv region. Vyacheslav Chaus, head of the Chernihiv OVA, announced this in Telegram. As a result of the impact, a fire broke out, which was contained after a few hours. Despite the attack, there is currently no threat to the power supply in the region. We previously wrote that on the night of October 19, Russian troops launched an airstrike on the Shostkin community of the Sumy region, using guided aerial bombs, UAV, and Shahed-type kamikaze drones. We will also remind you that Russian troops attacked Marganets in the Dnipropetrovsk region, wounding 3 people. 4 Ukrainian drones attacked an important plant in Russia. The Russian company Kremniel, located in Bryansk and used for military purposes, has again come under drone attack, according to media and Telegram channels, including Astra and Radio Svoboda. This is at least the 4th such attack on this factory, the products of which are used, in particular, in the production of the Pantsir air defense systems and the Iskander missile systems. Russian authorities initially announced a fire in the attic of a non-residential building, which was quickly extinguished by firefighters, and later clarified that one of the drones crashed into a non-residential building without causing a serious fire. The Astra Telegram channel notes that local residents confirm the attack specifically on the Kremniel plant, which is an important manufacturer of microelectronics for the Russian Ministry of Defense, with 94% of the company's output in 2017 intended for the needs of the Russian army. Earlier we wrote that a fire broke out on the territory of the Russian military airfield, Shkalovsky, in the Moscow region. It accommodates planes that serve the Russian elite. We will also remind you that on October 3, in the Russian city of Novosibirsk, the building of the regional office of the FSB was set on fire. 5 drones attacked St. Petersburg. On the morning of October 19, explosions rang out in St. Petersburg. Local residents reported drone attacks. Around 7 a.m., residents of the Russian city of St. Petersburg reported hearing explosions. On October 19, a drone was shot down in St. Petersburg. According to the provided information, the UAV was shot down by air defense forces. There are no threats to the population, Fontanka claims. Residents also report that electricity has gone out in the Vyborgsky and Primory districts of St. Petersburg. The light began to flicker, the image on the TV disappeared, then 3 cotton balls rang out, something crashed and the electricity was cut off. There is a hum in the wasteland where Shuvalovsky Avenue should pass, local residents wrote. Some even claimed that paintings were falling from the walls. Cotton could be heard even in the dachas near the Orlovsky quarry. Energy experts said that there was a technological violation on the 110 kV equipment. According to Fontanka, almost 300 buildings in the Primorsky district of St. Petersburg remained without electricity. There was no light in the houses for more than 2 hours. In addition, the network published the moment of the explosions in St. Petersburg. The video was shot by residents of one of the villages of the Leningrad region. At the same time, the local authorities are silent about the attack. Earlier we wrote that the Russian enterprise, Kremny L, located in Bryansk and used for military purposes, was again attacked by drones, as reported by mass media and telegram channels, including Astra and Radio Svoboda. We will also remind you that on October 3, in the Russian city of Novosibirsk, the building of the regional office of the FSB was set on fire. The occupiers destroyed the fire station in Sumy Oblast. The Russians attacked the fire department in Shostka, Sumy region, on the night of October 19. The rescuers were injured. Enemy aircraft attacked the fire rescue unit in Shostka, as a result of which the unit's building was partially destroyed. At the time of the attack, the personnel was in shelter. As a result of enemy shelling, 5 rescuers were injured and hospitalized. Buildings and 6 units of emergency services were damaged. According to the prosecutor's office, the occupiers dropped, according to preliminary data, 3 controlled aerial bombs on the central part of the city of Shostka. As a result of the enemy attack, 8 people were injured. Educational and medical institutions, premises of a number of institutions, residential buildings and vehicles were damaged. The law enforcement officers opened a criminal case on the fact of violating the laws and customs of war, Part 1 of Article 438 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine. GUR liquidated a Russian officer in Luhansk. In the blown-up car in the center of Luhansk was Russian Major Dmitro Pravuka. The occupier was liquidated. This is reported by GUR. On October 18, around 11:40, a UAZ Patriot car exploded in the center of temporarily occupied Luhansk. Inside the car was an officer of the Russian Army of Occupation, Major Dmitro Pravuka, the message says. According to the intelligence officers, as a result of the explosion, the invader involved in war crimes was destroyed. We previously wrote that special units of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, with the support of their comrades from the armed forces, liberated the village of Kruglyakivka in the Kharkiv region from Russian invaders and ensured its security. We will also remind you that the main Directorate of Intelligence of Ukraine GUR carried out a cyber attack on Russian satellite communication and maritime traffic control systems. Communal workers were hit by Russian shelling in Kherson. Every day, Russian troops attack the settlements on the right bank of the Dnieper in the Kherson region. On Saturday, October 19, the occupiers fired at the workers of the utility company in the Dnipro district of Kherson. The Kherson Regional Military Administration informs about this in Telegram. As a result of the Russian attack, 4 men aged 21, 48, 53 and 58 and a 42-year-old woman received contusions and blast injuries. The injured were taken to a medical facility. Now doctors are helping them. We previously wrote that on the night of October 19, Russian troops launched an airstrike on the Shostkan community of the Sumy region, using guided aerial bombs, UAV, and Shahed-type kamikaze drones. We will also remind you that Russian terrorists attacked an ambulance in Stanislav in the Kherson region. 9 racists attacked critical infrastructure in Cherkasy region. There are casualties. On the night of October 19, Russian troops shelled the Cherkasy region, resulting in the death of 1 person and wounding of another. This was reported by the head of the Cherkasy Regional Military Administration, Ihor Tabarets. Air defense forces and means of electronic warfare shot down 41 enemy drones and 2 missiles. However, some objects suffered damage and debris. Yumen District. A woman born in 1961 died as a result of shelling in the Yumen District. She was taken to the hospital in serious condition, but it was not possible to save her. Cherkasy District. In the Cherkasy District, a critical infrastructure facility came under fire. As a result of Shahed's attack on a private enterprise, a fire broke out in a warehouse, which has already been extinguished. One man was injured, but refused hospitalization. Cherkasy. In the city of Cherkasy, the wreckage of the drone damaged the windows of a residential building and the building of a children's and youth sports school. We previously wrote that on the night of October 18 to 19, the Russian invaders launched new strikes on Ukraine, but our air defense forces successfully repelled the attacks, destroying 42 drones and 4 guided missiles. We will also remind you that the Russians attacked the fire station in Shostka, Sumy region, on the night of October 19. The rescuers were injured. The occupiers destroyed the bridge in Oleshki. They are expecting an attack by the armed forces. Russian troops blew up a bridge across the Konka River in Oleshki, Kherson region. This was reported by the ATESH partisan movement, which believes that this may be preparation for a possible offensive by Ukrainian forces in the Kherson direction. According to ATESH, the Russian military, in particular from the 61st Marine Brigade, received intelligence about a possible attack by the armed forces of Ukraine. Russian units at a depth of up to 15 kilometers were put on full combat readiness, which also indicates increased preparation for defense. Guerrillas also report the movement of about 1,000 Russian troops towards the Dnipro River, which may indicate that the Russian occupiers expect active actions by Ukrainian forces in the area. Undermining a strategically important bridge can be a confirmation of serious defense intentions. At the same time, the partisans do not rule out that the undermining of the bridge could have been carried out with another, as yet unknown, purpose. Earlier we wrote that the Russian invaders will not attack Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region until spring. However, the invaders will try to surround this city. We will also remind you that in the temporarily occupied Crimea, the Russian occupiers are actively strengthening the western coast. 11 Russians are spreading fake videos with Ukrainian paratroopers. Russian propagandists spread fakes about Ukrainian paratroopers. Recently, a new hostile IPSO appeared on the network. This is reported by the airborne assault troops of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in Telegram. It is noted that the enemy actively continues to use artificial intelligence technology to create fake videos for the purpose of conducting IPSO. Thus, after the publication of fake video appeals by servicemen of 46 separate airmobile and 80 separate airborne assault brigades, the Russians created and are distributing another fake video. On it, it seems that the servicemen of the 81st Separate Airmobile Slobozhian Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces of Ukraine turned to the command with the demand to provide them with equipment and weapons. Otherwise, they threatened to leave their positions. It is obvious that this video was generated with the help of neural networks and is being spread by the enemy to demoralize the personnel of the DSHV. Also, the fact that enemy propagandists began to create such fake videos on a regular basis is noteworthy. And they mainly concern the military units of the airborne assault troops of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the report said. We will remind you that cybersecurity experts discovered a site on the internet that imitated the appearance and structure of the official website of the State Border Service of Ukraine. Earlier we wrote that the Ukrainian mass media should, correctly, cover such sensitive topics as the mobilization and activities of the TCC, and not be led by Russian fakes. We will also remind you that the Center for Countering Disinformation of the National Security Council of Ukraine called the information spread by Russian propagandists about the alleged mutiny in the 116th Separate Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine near Kupiansk and its removal from the combat zone due to loss of combat capability a fake. The Russians attacked Poltava Oblast with drones. On the night of October 19, Russian troops launched an attack on the Poltava region with the help of drones. The head of the Poltava OVA, Philip Pronin, reported in Telegram that 2 private buildings were damaged in the Lubensky district as a result of the attack. Fortunately, there are no injuries and all relevant services are already on the scene. Pronin also called on residents not to ignore air warning signals and to stay in shelters in times of danger in order to save their lives and the lives of their loved ones. We previously wrote that on the night of October 18 to 19, the Russian invaders launched new strikes on Ukraine, but our air defense forces successfully repelled the attacks, destroying 42 drones and 4 guided missiles. We will also remind you that the Russians attacked the fire station in Shostka, Sumy region, on the night of October 19. The rescuers were injured. British intelligence predicts the probable advance of the Russians in the Kharkiv region. Moscow continues its attacks on the eastern bank of the Oskil River in the Kharkiv region. In London, the probable advance of the occupiers in this area is predicted. This was announced by the Ministry of Defense of Great Britain on X Twitter. As noted in the summary, Russia continues to exert pressure on the east of the Kharkiv region. Russian forces are likely within a few hundred meters of the Oskil River in a narrow ledge about 20 kilometers south of the city of Kupiansk. Presumably, the continuation of Russian attacks complicates Ukrainian operations on the eastern bank of Oskil, the intelligence agency notes. The British Ministry of Defense suggests that Russia is likely to continue advancing in the area in the coming weeks. It is worth adding that Russian troops tried several times to regain control over Kupiansk after losing the city in September 2022 during the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Kupiansk is located on the Oskil River and is a railway hub that supports Ukrainian operations in the Kharkiv region. We will remind that since the beginning of the full-scale Russian invasion, more than 100,000 servicemen of the defense forces of Ukraine have undergone training on the territory of partner countries. The Russian occupiers will not attack Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region until spring. However, the invaders will try to surround this city. We previously wrote that Russian troops are actively increasing mechanized offensive operations in the western part of Donetsk region, trying to take advantage of dry conditions before the onset of autumn weather. We will also remind you that in the temporarily occupied Crimea, the Russian occupiers are actively strengthening the western coast.